One, I think you've lost your mind. I don't know if you actually saw Angel Reese have an entire meltdown a couple days ago where she's getting into some
couple of days
spat with Isabel Harrison, and she ends up in tears crying on the court. Like, I don't think you
Angel
even
Reese got
witnessed that.
pulled to the ground by Isabel Harrison and cried for a tiny bit. I don't think that's the same as a bunch of F-bombs.
No, that's not where it stopped. The play is over. She's swinging and hitting the ball out of the girl's hand, a bunch of stuff. She started it.
That same player, who lost her cool after Isabel Harrison knocked her down, bounced back with a double-double against Indiana. Maurice keeps bringing up one meltdown, but the real meltdown happened on the other team's bench.
Michaela Timpson's lap. She blew up her own player. She put a grenade in her lap.
I'll say this, and this is happened throughout the game. That falls on Amber Cox and Stephanie White. Michaela Timpson has no business even being in the game when you paid a starting power forward $800,000 a year to be there, who appears to be unplayable in fourth quarters. You had one job at the power forward spot. Go get a stretch four. You don't have a four that is an offensive threat on the entire team. So whoever is guarding...
Maurice just compared Indiana's power forward to a grenade. He says Stephanie White and Amber Cox set off their own roster by sending her into the game during crunch time. The numbers support him. The Fever shot 56% from the field, 47% from three, got to the free throw line 29 times at home, and still lost.
I think all of the Atlanta guards are saying that. So I started watching it, and, well, Alicia Gray, Paul was even, I was shocked when Paul took one, off the pick and roll and hit a three on it. But, I mean, they were really having fun with it. And it's not personal. It's just them saying, you can't guard me, I'm going to take advantage of it. And to prove it's not personal, whenever the Australian girl, I forget, I can't pronounce her name.
They didn't even play in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah, she's number 20 for Atlanta.
Charles Barkley is laying out a hunting strategy. Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, and Atlanta's whole backcourt followed the same scouting report all night. The rule was simple: if Caitlin Clark is guarding you, you attack. The box score proves it worked. Atlanta had 5 players score in double digits, with totals like 17, 17, 16. That's not just a basketball game. That's a coordinated takedown.
As far as Caitlin Clark, I now understand. When people say she plays like a black guy, now after watching that game last night, I saw it. There was a play at the end of, I think it was the end of either the second quarter, end of the second quarter. She has the girl on her, and she crossed her up one way, ball faked, crossed back the other way, made the girl spin around, got a foul, and she made the jump shot, but they didn't give her the M1. There are black guys who can't do that move. And when I saw her do that, I said, all right, she's obviously trained against guys. I can tell when a girl has played against men. She handles the ball like a man. She's a wizard with that ball in her hands. And so now I'm better understanding why black males can be...
Dree just paid Caitlin Clark the ultimate compliment from a basketball purist's point of view. He says she handles the ball like she trained against men, crossovers, ball fakes, ankle breakers, all of it. But pay attention to what he said next. When her shots stop going in, it turns into 4 players just standing around watching her go one-on-one against everyone. That's not really a system. That's street ball, with 4 teammates reduced to bystanders in jerseys.
One thing I do have to say is that the referees are horrible. WNBA's referees, that might be the worst part of the product. These referees are terrible. They were missing calls that should have been called and calling calls that should not have been called. Caitlin Clark got at least 3 fouls that shouldn't have been fouls. So I understand why she gets frustrated, because it probably happens every night. And last night, she was getting called for fouls. I'm like, that's a foul? And then they were missing the ones that were actual fouls. That is really the worst part of their product. The players were not as bad as, again, as many people may say they are jokingly. Players were not too terrible, but the referees there suck. They need to improve that part of the product in the WNBA, and I guess...
3 fouls called on Caitlin Clark that shouldn't have been fouls. That's discount from just 1 game. But Jason makes the point that changes the whole conversation. This isn't only a Clark issue. Watch any WNBA broadcast on any given night, and the officiating looks shaky league-wide. The difference is, Clark reacts, drops F-bombs, picks up technicals, and now refs feel justified hitting her with tight, payback-style calls. The whistle has gotten personal.
Poorly constructed when you gave $800,000 a year to a starting power forward who's been unplayable throughout the games, You had an opportunity to get a 6'8" center at the number 9 spot. You drafted a 5'9" guard in Raven Johnson, who also became unplayable yesterday. They tried her for 3 minutes. They said, oh no, she don't belong out here. They had to go to Ty Harris, who should be delivering DoorDash. I have a Starbucks order on the way. Ty Harris should probably be the one delivering it right about now. This roster is terrible. It is poorly constructed. It is bailed out by a
$800,000, that's the number Maurice keeps circling back to. The Fever paid starting power forward money for a 4 who Stephanie White won't even trust in the fourth quarter. Add in the Tyasha Harris signing, a guard Maurice says followed White over from Connecticut, and the picture gets clearer. This roster wasn't built with a plan. It was pieced together out of obligations, relationships, and favors, and that shows up every time the game gets tight.
It's to be made. Dre, I'd like you to chime in on this, and I know you've got a limited amount of, but Kelsey Mitchell can get a bucket. She's a better offensive player than Caitlin Clark. I just, as a scorer, I'm sure she's a better scorer. I don't mean offensive player. She's a better scorer. She can get you shot at the rim. She can create her own mid-range shot. She can create her own three-point shot. She can catch and shoot. She can get to the foul line. Caitlin Clark's never been in that situation where someone standing next to her is a better scorer than her.
Yeah, I agree with that. And seeing the game last night, Mitchell can put the ball on the floor and create her own.
This is the quiet earthquake running underneath Indiana's whole season. Jason is finally saying out loud what the box scores have been hinting at all year. Kelsey Mitchell can create her own shot at the rim, in the mid-range, from 3, off the catch and shoot, and at the foul line. Right now, she's a more efficient pure scorer than Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark has never had to share that role in her entire basketball life.
So Jerry Stackhouse later in his career, a lot of people don't remember this, he went to Detroit, he led the league in scoring when the offense was built around him. Allen Iverson led the league in scoring like a year later, and that's when he was the MVP and all that stuff that he did in Philly. So I don't think they're a good match, and as good as Mitchell is, I don't know the dynamics of the overall terrain of the WNBA, but they could probably fetch some pretty good players in exchange for Mitchell that can fit around the way Clark plays. So let me ask you all, are there 3-and-D players in the WNBA? Is that a thing?
The Iverson and Stackhouse comparison hits hard because of how it actually played out in Philadelphia. Stackhouse got traded to Detroit and led the league in scoring the very next year. Iverson stayed behind and won MVP. Two great players, same backcourt, total failure until one of them got moved. Dre is saying out loud what people are tiptoeing around. One of these guards may need to leave before the Indiana Fever can truly become Caitlin Clark's team.
They went to bed tonight before thinking, man, we got to keep this Angel Reese off the boards. Where every time you have to slide over and help off dribble penetration, well, it gives Angel Reese a free run to the board. So if you're spending all night in the gap trying to help Caitlin Clark from getting beat off the dribble, Angel Reese ends up...
Charles just connected every problem in this game into one chain reaction. The Fever stayed worried all night about Angel Reese on the boards. So when Clark gets cooked off the dribble, the post player has to slide over and help, which leaves the lane wide open for Angel Reese to grab rebound after rebound. Indiana's defense doesn't have one leak, it has a domino effect. That's the entire Fever season in a single possession. Let's break down what this roster really is. There are 3 true building blocks: Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston. On a good night, those 3 alone can score 65, 70, even 75 points. Sophie Cunningham off the bench has found her rhythm too. That's 4 real WNBA caliber players. Then everything falls apart. Lexi Hull and Alyssa Smith are combining to make $1.6 million and have been unplayable when games tighten up. The starting 4 making $800,000 gets benched in fourth quarters. Tyasha Harris is on the floor because of a Connecticut connection. Raven Johnson, a 5 feet 9 inches guard the Fever drafted 9th overall when a 6 feet 8 inches center was still on the board, got 3 minutes against Atlanta before Stephanie White pulled her. That's nearly half the rotation that can't close out a game. Here's the math problem nobody in Indiana's front office has solved. Clark is the most aggressive, ball-dominant player in the league. Her game needs the ball in her hands for long stretches. Mitchell is the most efficient pure scorer on the roster and needs touches too. So when Clark's hot, Mitchell stands around. When Mitchell catches fire, like in the fourth quarter against Atlanta, Clark holds back shots she'd normally take because she just watched a lead disappear from the bench. That's not chemistry, that's a real-time standoff. And it gets worse defensively. The stat Jason pulled from ITA Hoops is the kind that changes how every coach prepares for this team. Atlanta scored 30 points with Clark as her direct defender, the most any defender has surrendered all season. Chicago hit her for 29. Golden State got 28. Dallas got 25. The Fever are 1-3 when opponents specifically target Clark for 25+ points that way. That number is in every coaching meeting right now, and every coach is following Atlanta's blueprint: find Clark, isolate her, attack her in a straight line because she can't stop a drive going north-south. Charles put it bluntly, this isn't a scheme issue. It's one dribble, a broken ankle, and a layup. No defensive system fixes a primary defender getting beaten that easily in a straight line. Now stack it all together. Clark gives minimal defensive effort, hands up, backpedaling, picking up cheap fouls. The post players are stuck cleaning up after her blow-bys, and while they slide over to help, Angel Reese walks in uncontested for offensive rebounds. This roster can survive one of those problems, not both at once. Morris's point cuts the deepest. He says this team beats up on weaker opponents, they torch Seattle, run through Connecticut, but against real competition like Atlanta, Golden State, and Dallas, they don't stand a chance. The head-to-head numbers back him up. This isn't a slump. It's a structural ceiling. And here's what makes the next several months brutal for Indiana: most of the league hit free agency, and the Fever had the cap space, the draft picks, and the most marketable player in women's basketball. Instead, they signed a power forward who can't play in the fourth quarter, brought in a backup guard mainly for a Connecticut connection, and drafted a 5 feet 9 inches prospect over an actual center. Every one of those calls has aged badly in months, not years. So what's the real fix? Charles thinks the offense is elite and the defense just needs Clark to try harder. Maurice thinks the roster is too broken to compete with serious teams no matter what Clark does. Dree thinks Mitchell and Clark simply can't coexist long-term, and one of them has to be moved. All three could be right at once, and that's the worst-case scenario for Fever fans, because it means there's no single trade, no coaching tweak, no Clark gets her groove back story that fixes this. It means real reconstruction on a roster meant to be this league's flagship franchise. The Fever shot 56% from the field and still gave up 108 points at home. That's the whole season in one box score. They can score on anyone, but they can't stop anyone. And the player every camera is pointed at is the same player every coach is now targeting. So tell me in the comments, do you trade Kelsey Mitchell to fully build around Clark, knowing you're giving up your best pure scorer? Or do you bench Clark in fourth quarters when she's the defensive liability dragging the team down? Stephanie White is going to have to choose, and whichever way she goes, half the fan base won't be happy. If you've been following the Fever all season and want the full breakdown every week, hit subscribe.